of the wilderness, beyond the last campfire's glow, lurks a mystery as old as the forests themselves. Welcome to Whispers of the Woodape, the podcast that explores all things Sasquatch. From legendary encounters to cutting-edge research, from ancient folklore to modern-day investigations, we're peeling back the layers of one of the greatest mysteries on Earth. So grab your gear, keep your eyes on the tree line, and join us as we dive into the world of the elusive Woodape. Because sometimes, the whispers in the woods are more than just the wind. Whispers of the Woodape, where the hunt for truth begins.
Uh-oh.
And we're back. The Genoskwa, first time I ever heard about this is when I was doing a report, like in college, on the Iroquois, which is the local Indian Confederation here in the area that we live in, right?
Yep. Yes.
Everywhere
yes,
from
indeed.
Canada, I mean, even into Canada, all the way down, basically almost all of New York.
Yeah.
And parts of even Pennsylvania and whatnot, I think, were part of their territory.
Yeah.
But either way, this is a legend that goes back to them. Now, there's other tribes, I think, farther north, too, that have, like, similar type things, right? The origins.
Yep.
Like,
they're all very similar in the sense that, like, structure, biology, but the stories change kind of, I guess, depending on where you go, because some places they say they don't have that aggressive tendency or nature, and then in some places they say they're, tearing people's heads off.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that was their preferred way. That's literally their preferred way of
just grabbing
getting rid of folks. Yeah, just twisting their heads off. So described as huge, hulking, and often coated in hardened mud, clay, or even stone, giving rise to the term stone giants. Not just a forest dweller, these beings are said to abduct and consume humans, and they lived in caves in the deepest wilderness. In Iroquois myth, they're more than animals. They're dark spirits in physical form, representing chaos and danger to peaceful tribal life. And some legends suggest they once were men cursed or transformed by evil spirits. Now, I did a little research in that. That seems like very correlative with like the Wendigo.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm sorry, the Wendigo is so tainted by modern culture.
Yeah. Yeah.
It takes on this whole nother thing. I mean, the other thing too is the tribal origins are different, because Wendigos are like Algonquin, the Ojibwe, and the Cree. But there's also tales of the Wendigo from out west. So I don't know what to believe with that. But and so loosely translated, Wendigo means the evil spirit that devours mankind. Sounds a lot like the,
Yeah.
But I think when you talk about the appearance, now they talk about like a Wendigo is more like an emaciated corpse. Right?
Yeah, not a
big difference between 8 to 10 foot tall, massive, muscular, thing covered in hardened mud, bark, and that type of thing. So it's like, I don't know what to think, right?
I don't either, man. This one's, I mean, the reality is, if you think about it, with most animal species, there's variations in when you go from, like, in canines, for instance. Look at
Yeah.
the variation in canines. I know we've breeded them out as humans, but the reality is there is a variation even in the wild. So why wouldn't that be the same with something like this?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
Just thinking logically.
yeah. So different traits, though, like
Yeah.
behavior wise, between Genoskwa and Sasquatch, right?
Yes. Yep.
We've
You're not
got
getting curious.
the behavioral divide, I guess you would call it, right? And you've got, oh shoot, I just lost it, dude. What the hell?
What?
All right. Behavior. Sasquatch tends to avoid contact.
Yeah.
And they're elusive, right?
Yeah.
Well, Genoskwa's reported is aggressive and territorial.
Yeah.
Build large but leaner for the Bigfoot Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Genoskwa's massive, muscular, and has like the stone-like armor, which just sounds like really matted fur. Like they literally, the stories are that they mat their fur and like basically to stop arrows.
Yeah. Yep.
But later on they found that it wouldn't stop bullets. That's the stories I've read so far.
Yep. Like they as soon as flintlock pistols and rifles started showing up, they started kind of withering away, or at least going into hiding.
Yeah, right. Became way more
elusive. Illusory hominid.
Illusory hominid. Vocalization, howls, knocks, and mimicry for Sasquatch. But for the God, why do I keep forgetting how to say it? Genoskwa. Is that how you?
Yeah, Genoskwa.
Genoskwa.
I think that's how
low growls and terrifying shrieks. Habitat, forest mountains, remote areas for Sasquatch, deep caves, cliffside forests, right?
Yep.
And then temperament is curious and neutral, and predatory and dangerous. So
I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't either. So upstate New York, parts of the Adirondacks and Allegheny regions have multiple reports of unusually aggressive Sasquatch that throw rocks, break trees, and charge at witnesses. Sounds familiar, Joule.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Sounds kind of like what happened in your backyard.
Yeah, just a little.
The other thing that's a little... It sounds like what happened to me and both of my encounters as well.
Yeah.
Here's the other kicker. The odor.
Yeah.
You don't hear about the odor in all Sasquatch sightings and or confrontations.
No.
And I had said, I wonder if it's like a reaction to being startled or being, like as a skunk would, right?
Okay.
I've said that in past episodes of maybe not this podcast, but other podcasts, but I think I did say it in this podcast. And I would not doubt, and it's a cross between skunk and decomp.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? And that's exactly what it smells like.
That's a real identifiable stench.
Oh, for sure. And so so let me read one of these.
Okay.
So the Bark and Stone Man of Canandaigua. And this is in
Canandaigua?
Canandaigua.
Okay.
In the winter of 1838, near the southern shores of Canandaigua Lake, in what is western New York's Finger Lake region, a local fur trapper named Elias T. Henshaw was reported missing under strange circumstances. Henshaw was well known to the area and with a reputation for venturing deep into the hardwood forest alone for weeks at a time, usually emerging with pelts and stories of black bears and coyotes. But that winter, he didn't return. A small search party found his camp weeks later, totally undisturbed, but eerie. His traps were untouched. His fire pit cold but carefully stacked, and a half-skinned rabbit hung frozen in the trees. The only oddity, enormous footprints in the snow leading away from the camp in the dense thicket that hugged the lakeside cliffs.
Yeah.
These tracks, according to the journal of the local sheriff's deputy named Thomas Wilmer, measured nearly 18 inches long and were deep enough to suggest something with stone or iron in its feet. It's so funny the way that they talk and wrote and everything. Yeah. So the local Haudenosaunee, which is the Iroquois, but these were Senecas.
Okay.
Seneca elders told the search party to stop looking. They warned them that Henshaw had likely been taken by the
Genoskwa.
The Genoskwa.
Maybe. I might be wrong.
By the Genoskwa. That's how it's spelled.
Okay.
A stone-cloaked giant of the old woods, said to roll in mud and crushed bark until hardened like armor, blending into trees and cliffs. So it's also camouflage.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
A protector. I mean, think about that also in that area in the Finger Lakes, like down by like Skinny Atlas Lake. And I mean, you've been down there, dude.
Yeah.
You've hiked in like Fillmore Glen and places like that, where they have that crushed stone.
Yeah.
That would totally, if they rolled in mud and then rolled in that, it would
completely blend in. Plus it would harden like armor. Yeah. Dude, and not for nothing, like even certain rounds aren't going to penetrate that.
Yeah. So blending into trees and cliffs, a protector of sacred ground or a hunter of men who trespassed too far. Wilmer later wrote that one of the elders pointed toward the cliff and said, "He walks with the bark of the pines and the blood of the stone. He is not a beast. He is the mountain's anger." Nobody was ever found. Locals say that in especially cold, quiet nights near Canandaigua, you can still hear rock scraping against rock in the woods, and sometimes a single deep exhale that rattles the branches. Right?
I got a friend in Canandaigua. Maybe you got to check it out.
Yeah, maybe, right? I used to work in Canandaigua, actually, at the VA hospital there.
Very nice. Very nice.
So, aggression in the Adirondacks is another story. When Sasquatch turns violent. While most people picture Sasquatch as shy, elusive, and almost benevolent, there's another category of reports, far less romantic and a lot more terrifying, especially across upstate New York, the Adirondack wilderness, and the Allegheny Plateau. These aren't the classic blurry in the distance encounters. They're up close, unnerving, and often hostile. And for some researchers, the violent behavior might point to something other than your run-of-the-mill Bigfoot, perhaps even the Genoskwa.
Perhaps.
So, Genoskwa.
You'll get it one day, man. You've said it too many times the other way.
So what are you saying?
Genoskwa.
Genoskwa.
Yeah, I think
Genoskwa.
There it is. The conditioning.
Mindless repetition or blunt force trauma, and nobody's here to smack me. So
Either
Adirondack rock thrower, 1997, Moose River Plains. Dude, I know that's not that far off from Old Forge, right?
No, it's not.
A group of hikers near the Moose River Plains recreation area reported being harassed for over 2 nights by what they initially thought were aggressive campers, large rocks too big to be thrown by a human. See, I mean, come on, bro.
Yeah.
Were lobbed into their campsite from the tree line. These described guttural vocalizations, snapping branches, and sometimes pacing just beyond their firelight. Sounds really familiar to me, bro.
Yeah, just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Go check out episode 1 and 2.
Yeah, there.
Right?
Right from
Seriously.
the start.
On the second night, a tree was pushed down. There you go, another tree.
Oh, look at that.
And one of them saw a shadow with shoulders wider than a refrigerator dart between trunks. The DEC, which is the Department of Environmental Conservation, told them it was likely a bear bluff charging.
Throwing rocks?
Exactly, right? But none of them bought it.
Okay.
So that's that one. That's crazy, right? That's 1997.
Yeah.
Now we jump forward to 2001. The Chestnut Ridge Growler.
Oh.
Allegheny Plateau, 2001. In the Chestnut Ridge area, which stretches into both Pennsylvania and Western New York. There have been decades of reports of something far more aggressive than typical Bigfoot sightings. I need to talk to Paul about this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're talking about our friend Paul Bogdan. In 2001, a bow hunter named Rob S. was near Salamanca, New York, when he witnessed a figure tearing bark from a tree and letting out a low-frequency roar that he said he felt in his chest. Sounds familiar, too.
Yep.
When he tried to retreat, the creature charged, stopping only after Rob tripped and fired an arrow into the ground. He described it as armor-plated in dried mud, with matted hair and a face that looked almost like a cracked mask. Wow.
Unbelievable.
Another one, Split Rock Wildway encounter. This was 2012.
Okay.
In the eastern Adirondacks. A wildlife surveyor doing acoustic monitoring near the Split Rock Wildway, a protected corridor in the eastern Adirondacks, and I think it's close over by Lake Champlain.
Okay.
Reported finding trees twisted at 6 feet high, claw-like scrape marks, and a large pine logs impaled into the soft ground vertically. Wow. Something with no clear natural explanation. 2 nights later, his recording equipment picked up tree knocks, stone-on-stone sounds, and what one audio analyst described as a chest thump, followed by a deep howl, far lower than any known North American mammal. He refused to go back out alone after that.
Yeah. I don't blame him.
So, not just Sasquatch, maybe something worse, right?
Yeah.
These stories have consistent traits.
Yes.
Extreme strength, stone throwing behavior. Now, like, I've had stones thrown, but they were stones, not rocks.
Yeah.
And here's the big one. Bluff charges or full-on aggression.
Yeah, 100%. Because it's too... I mean, I would imagine it's to scare. Maybe it's worried about you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Who knows?
In my case, I had a blazing bonfire going.
Right.
Maybe it got scared of that. And
I don't know. Environmental manipulation, like felled trees or restructured terrain.
Yeah.
Classic Sasquatch. I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
But the intensity combined with the stone-covered descriptions and tactical harassment behavior, that and like smell and whatnot, lean more into the Genoskwa. Look at that territory. And the line, I mean, obviously in the woods, the line between legend and reality gets blurry anyway, right? But whatever it is, it doesn't want you there.
No, absolutely not.
And it knows how to show it.
Yeah. Dude,
so
I don't, you almost wish you didn't learn about these things, because
Right?
my idea of it before was like, could be nothing, like not a big
Yeah.
deal, or curious or something. But dude, what am I even supposed to do about that?
Yeah, I know. You know how I saw a good analogy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're like the polar bears of the Bigfoot world, right?
Yeah,
And
that's
like
wonderful.
Sasquatch are like the black bears.
Yeah.
And then you've got the intermediaries like the Gugway, which is more like the baboon faced,
Yep.
which are also supposedly pretty aggressive, right?
Like what, dude? What?
Maybe
Because
dog man type
yeah.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So here, I've been doing a lot of, as usual, research. But we just on our other podcast, the Broadcasting Seeds,
Mm-hmm.
I just published a interview with oh my god, why can't I remember his name?
You losing it again?
I'm just tired, bro.
That's all right. I get that.
With jeez, dude,
Guy with a name.
guy with a name, and we were talking about stuff.
Nice.
Oh
man.
Holy crap. Oh, Adam Ferris.
There it is.
And so he wrote a book called Five Stones, and it's not exactly a book. It's more like a graphic novel, right?
Mm-hmm.
But either way, this guy's done his research, right? But he was talking about lion. We've been talking about like lion-faced men. We've been talking about dog men.
Yeah.
And
Can't have one without the other.
the bottom line is this, man. And this is like biblical stuff. But then so I think I started saying this at the beginning of this episode, but this like the Gugway and the Genoskwa, right? Genoskwa.
Yes.
I heard on a recent L.A. Marzulli episode.
Okay.
And there was a guy that was talking about different, they were basically talking about that Bigfoot or Nephilim.
Okay.
And I'm starting to think this more and more every day. Because remember, we've also talked about this Eliud, the woman who was on that other podcast, saying that it told her it was an Eliud. And what an Eliud is the offspring of a Nephilim.
Oh, God.
And the DNA testing that's been done points that direction as well.
Yeah. What do you make of that?
I can't just take at face value that people are like, oh, the DNA is, whatever, because of Melba Ketchum and the way that she handled it and this, that, and the other thing. I've read the research and it seems pretty legit to me, but who am I? But at the end of the day, I mean, I'm not dumb.
No.
And I also know that if this type of information were to get out, it's not the type of information that they want out.
Yes. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with you, man.
So I just keep leaning more towards, I mean, it's not even woo, actually.
No.
It's not. It's not like, people are like, oh, that, I'm like, no, because it's biblical, man.
At this point.
I mean, and one of the guys that was really saying this and had been saying it for years was Scott Carpenter.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, I think they took him out, man. Which is kind of scary.
Yeah, well, the reality is, like, that's, I think, what people's biggest fear is that they don't want people don't talk about anything like this because they're worried about someone showing up and getting rid of them.
Maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, the reality is today with the amount of social media out and all these platforms all over the place, like I feel like enough people are talking about it where um, that's not really the case anymore. I think the reality is it's hard not to believe in these things, especially when you have these experiences and you have zero explanation. It makes no sense. The damage is ridiculous. Um, the amount, like, I don't know anything that can push trees down like that.
Yeah. No.
If again, like, it sounded like an explosion happened in my woods and trees just started flying. It
Yeah.
was unbelievable, dude. I couldn't believe what and I really, up until that point, I wouldn't even a second guess. I would have never thought a Sasquatch, anything like that. Then that happened. Same thing the same thing with like paranormal activity.
Yeah.
I didn't believe in it until I experienced it. And when, so I'm telling you, I got to see it to believe it type of thing, type of person, I meant to say. So to have something like that happen and not be able to see, that drove me nuts, dude.
Yeah.
Nuts.
Right.
Sleepless nights after that. So I couldn't believe what just happened. And I had my wife with me to back me up and say I'm not nuts, you know?
Yeah.
She has no idea either. And it was, dude, I didn't smell anything. But I was also upwind. So, if anything, it'd have been smelling me.
Yeah. Right.
Um,
And the fire.
and the fire. And the fire. And I wasn't drinking or anything, man. I was just hanging out by the fire with my wife.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable. And the damage to the tree and the flattened earth all behind the fence.
Yeah.
Because in the summer, that's all grown in.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've seen it, and
Yeah.
it was flat.
Yeah.
Something had just totally trampled it all down.
Yeah. And again, I know what the deer bed down areas look like. Doesn't look like that. It doesn't look like thrashed woods. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It was, dude, I have no idea.
Yeah.
No
I
idea.
think we're just talking about, and it's not even that it's just a different type, maybe, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all kinds of legends about it eating people and tearing their heads off and all that. And it's like, you know, why do we really need to go into that? I mean,
and I'm no threat, man. So I think if I pose the threat, I don't do any. I just hang out in the woods. I don't do anything. I don't like tear the woods up or anything like that. I don't disturb it really. I love nature for how it is. So I don't know. Maybe I did something.
Yeah. So tell everyone about your baseball bat.
Oh yeah. So, I got a nice Got Knockers baseball bat while we were out in the A&F, and I brought it home. So as I'm pulling in once I pulled in the driveway, got out of the vehicle, I pull the bat out, and I'm showing my wife, just, you know, because I'm a kid with toys. I'm swinging this thing around.
Like, you're playing with your knockers.
Yeah, exactly. I'm playing with my knockers, man. I'm a kid. What can I say? I'm swinging this thing around, and I'm telling her about it, where I got it, why there's a chip out of the handle, and like all that stuff, and a blem. I like that. But I ended up like kind of banging it around too, and I smacked it on a couple pieces of wood, and then walked inside. The next day, and so I got home during broad daylight. So I walk, and it was a bright sunny day. I'm walking in, and I see trash like on the side because I live on somewhat of a main road.
Yeah.
And people just either it's falling out of their truck or like, you know how people
Or
toss
they're
shit
assholes
like
and
that.
they just
Or
dump
they're
it.
assholes
Right?
and they see an open field and they're like, oh, fuck this guy. So regardless, I go inside the next day, and I forgot to go back out. I was tired. We were camping for the weekend. I was tired. I wanted to go inside and sleep. The next day, I go to get out and I go to grab all that trash, and there's a baseball right next to where the trash is, like a kind of an old, crusty ass looking baseball, and I again, coincidence,
Maybe.
right in front of my door, literally eye shot from my door. I opened the door, I saw the baseball, and I was like, what?
Yeah,
Never.
I'm convinced that we need to get on it with like the gifting
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
The gifting rock, the gifting tree, the gifting stump, whatever
Brother,
we want to
I throw fruits and vegetables over, so whenever they're like almost going bad and stuff,
yeah.
I'll toss, instead of just throwing them out, I just throw them out into the woods because there's deer, there's
Yeah, right. Well, you have
rabbits.
a lot of wildlife back there.
Yeah. So I just throw it out in the woods so they can eat it. And most of the time it's gone by the morning. So everything usually. And I don't know, maybe I have been doing that unwittingly.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm not talking about food. I'm talking about things like a baseball.
What kind of things? Okay.
Like a baseball. Or like rocks, like shiny stones like this or something. Okay. You know, things that are distinct.
Yeah, but if we put a camera on it, do you think?
Oh, I don't even really want to put a camera on it. I just want to see what disappears and what shows up, because people have done things where they'll put out like these, they'll put out tools, they'll put out things, and they'll go away, and then they'll come back like a month later.
Yeah.
Like they'll show up a month later, like the things that were taken, or new things will show up. That's a telltale, in my opinion. That's a way that we could tell one way or another that something intelligent, something is there, because a deer's not doing that. A bear's not doing that. A chipmunk is not doing that. A freaking squirrel's not doing that either. Maybe if you had the right thing. Maybe a crow, but also a crow is not carrying a wrench away.
Yeah.
They're not.
No.
I'm sorry.
No, not a 5-pound wrench.
Or not even like a 1-pound wrench even.
Dude, we'll put a 6-pounder, 10-pounder if we have to. I don't care.
You know what I mean? I'm just saying there's things.
Yeah.
And
I
plus
think we should put heavy shit too, just to really make sure, you know what I mean?
Right. Absolutely. So that's I think that's something that needs to happen.
Mm-hmm. Should we
don't have to go all the way out to do that. We can go but I think we should do it at some distance away from the house, and we'll find a spot. Jesus, we have 95 acres.
Should we put a camera at distance?
I don't know. I guess we'll see. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
So maybe we should do that soon. Maybe
we should. Go have a fire out there, do some recording.
Something. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man. So this is just the reason I wanted to talk about this is because of our experiences that we've had, the experiences you've had, but even with me in Illinois and Alaska, that's what this was. That type of thing. Charged. I was, or I scared the shit out of something, and or whatever, but they weren't backing down. It wasn't trying to avoid me. It was like, hello, I'm here.
You guys
and I stink really bad.
I know what they ran into. Any person seeing that, for the most part, unless there's some other trained unit, or, well, some people are stupid.
Yes.
But obviously wasn't a person out in the middle of the Alaskan wilderness.
No. Negative. And it wasn't a bear.
And the smell in Illinois, that's another.
Right. It was identical to the smell in Alaska, too.
Yeah.
And again, if we're talking about a different subspecies or just a big, well, people talk about this, that, as the farther north you go, the bigger things get. And the Genoskwa is substantially larger than the average Bigfoot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Per reports. So, I mean, we're talking 8 to 11 feet,
Yeah.
So.
Pretty wild.
I don't know what to think, man. Is it a type of Bigfoot? Is it a meaner cousin?
I would. I mean, like I said in the beginning, I would think it's just a variation, just like anything else. I think it just takes on different personalities in different places.
Yeah,
I don't know,
maybe.
People up here are pretty miserable. So I would imagine whatever's living up here in the woods would probably be pretty miserable. Pretty rainy, wet, muggy, cold. It's relentless bad weather. So I don't know, whatever is out here has to be somewhat capable of survival at a pretty decent extent, I would imagine. Well, and if they're rolling around in rocks, that's terrifying, man. Like to have to have the structural understanding of how to
armor up.
Yeah, dude. What?
Yeah, and who knows? I don't know if they're. Yeah, it's crazy.
What kind of tomfoolery is going on here?
Well, let's leave the episode with this.
All right.
When you're deep in the woods and you hear a branch snap, if it's a Sasquatch, you might get lucky and catch a glimpse. If it's a Genoskwa, you might want to run.
Yeah.
Because this ain't the hiker's myth. This is an apex cryptid. This is the Bigfoot's bigger, meaner cousin and the one that doesn't miss leg day.
I like that.
So.
It's a good way to end.
Yeah, man.
They do not miss leg day.
They do not miss leg day. Yes, for sure. Especially if they're rolling around in rocks.
Yeah, dude. What?
So, all right, everybody. Subscribe, and share the podcast.
Yes.
This is how we keep this content coming. I know we've been a little lax lately, but that's changing. So, either way, we had some stuff to square away. So,
I will take my accountability for that.
Share, and subscribe to the episode. And
show us some love.
Show us some love. And before you know it, we'll have stores to buy stuff and all kinds of shameless product placement. Absolutely. So just be prepared.
We're getting there. We're almost there.
All right. Take care.
See you, everybody.